So see, in a large organization, especially a multinational firm, these are complex organizations. They have procedure rule books that probably require 6 to 8 weeks worth of training to keep up. And then these large organizations also have rapid onset of change in their products and services in order to maintain competitiveness with market conditions. And all that transforms to the contact center employee of trying to always keep up to date with these changes in these products and services. It becomes distracting. It becomes hard to be effective in the job. And so AI really has the opportunity to transform the workplace to be a much more effective, productive environment where people can actually drive innovation, drive real change, think about things more analytically. Today, it's operated almost like a cattle farm, the way that you support customer experiences. And it's just because of the sheer volume of effort that is required to support those customer experiences. Imagine a world where AI actually enables human touch when it's most important, but takes out those precious human resources from those transactions that are actually more efficiently processed by self-service.
Good day. Welcome to the Leader's Edge, and today is our season opener. And what an opener this is, because in today's episode for season 15, episode 1, we're going to be talking about AI and the customer experience. And there's none other better to describe it or talk about it than Arthur Nowak. Arthur, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Dino. So Arthur Nowak, I've spent 25 years in the customer experience space. 22 years of those working for a really large business process outsourcing firm, mostly what you would know that to be is contact center type of work, supporting customer experiences for various brands across industries. And so in that role, I was responsible for our operations in the Philippines, India, Australia, New Zealand, managing over 30 client relationships and about 25,000 contact center employees, to give you some perspective on scale. And so I left that job 2 years ago because I saw an opportunity to do things differently in customer experience. We'll be talking about that. AI, it seems to be the buzz term that everyone loves to talk about these days. And so it is going to transform the way that contact centers operate and should operate. And I just saw an opportunity, and so ultimately left the corporate job in order to pursue what I saw as the opportunity in the space unfolding.
And it's certainly an honor for us to have you here today. One of the things, of course, that is always on people's minds is when we talk about AI and the customer experience, it conjures up images of, wait a minute, does that mean I'm not talking to a person anymore? How will AI know how I'm feeling, and how does it feel to interact with it? So, Arthur, tell us a little bit more about what does AI in the customer experience mean?
Yeah. So look, I think that human touch is actually going to become more precious and more important in the age of AI. And I think that the way that AI will actually help to support that is supporting the actual employees that are doing that are doing the work and supporting customers on behalf of brands. So see, in a large organization, especially a multinational firm, these are complex organizations. They have procedure rule books that probably require 6 to 8 weeks worth of training to keep up. And then these large organizations also have rapid onset of change in their products and services in order to maintain competitiveness with market conditions.
Mm.
And all that transforms to the contact center employee of trying to always keep up to date with these changes in these products and services. It becomes distracting. It becomes hard to be effective in the job. And so AI really has the opportunity to transform the workplace to be a much more effective, productive environment where people can actually drive innovation, drive real change, think about things more analytically. Today, it's operated almost like a cattle farm, the way that you support customer experiences. And it's just because of the sheer volume of effort that is required to support those customer experiences. Imagine a world where AI actually enables human touch when it's most important, but takes out those precious human resources from those transactions that are actually more efficiently processed by self-service. And we have AI today. The first form of AI arguably could have been an ATM machine. We
Right.
went into a machine, we put a card in, and that machine would tell us our bank accounts. It would allow us to withdraw money. It would allow us to deposit funds. Now you can pay your bills from ATM machines. And we adopted that box as a part of the way we live life. And I think it's transformed it for the better. Added convenience of financial for financial transactions. We've embraced it. We've added. We can't even remember what life would have been like without ATMs. AI, I think, has the opportunity to transform that as well, where those transactions that are actually more conveniently done in a self-service type of way electronically will be supported by various different versions of technology that all seem to be labeled AI. But AI is really just any coded decision-making process that we ask technology to perform on our behalves. And I think that that has a huge opportunity to add a lot of convenience for customers.
I'd like to say that I hear you, and it does sound like a breakthrough, especially for how it allows people who are in customer service to re-envision or revision the way that they will be doing their work. I remember Colin Blackwell once saying that instead of looking at AI as your competitor in the workplace, think of it as augmented intelligence, something that's your partner. If you're Batman, then it's your Robin. And he also talked about how it enables people to take the mundane out of what they do and focus more on, as you said, the human interaction portion that is critical to having that
Yeah.
wonderful experience. Um, Now, on a tangent, I was wondering how how real or how interactive does AI become in a customer experience situation? Are we looking at something that looks like a person, sounds like a person, or is it more like a chatbot scenario? Describe it a little bit for us, please.
Yeah. So I think that's where we're on an interesting new frontier. So if you've experimented with OpenAI a la ChatGPT, you can see the generative nature and the interaction that you can have with an AI persona.
Okay.
In what was phenomenal about ChatGPT is it retains context throughout the entire conversation and is able to synthesize from large, vast amounts of data to produce natural sounding responses that a reasonable person would output. And so that is transformational in terms of the applicability of AI in any context. However, it is groundbreaking stuff. So I think that there is a massive rush on reevaluating what the use cases are around applications of generative AI and natural language AI
Mm.
in the context of customer experience. And so it's a fun frontier because you are absolutely addressing a needed demand, but it's also a little bit of uncharted territory on how you operationalize this technology.
Mhm.
Deloitte's actually an interesting fact. There will be a study that will be released around the challenge of adopting AI in the future. And what that study will point to is the lack of talent with the necessary skills to support and maintain these AI systems.
Mhm.
These are not sentient beings. AI is what we code it to do. Any
Right.
computer program is a version of AI by that definition. The intelligence is coded intelligence. It is trained intelligence. It is not a sentient being that can learn on its own, right? Even the technology that went through various different the chess playing AI, right? Even that was just coded logic of learning inherent in a system.
Mhm.
So it will require support. And that is the transformational shift that I think is the opportunity, in fairness, for the Philippines, because the Philippines is the #1 geography for contact center employees doing support services for the customer. What other geography has the better skill and experience to then be able to program these same experiences in these digital means?
Mhm.
Because if you know how to do it live for a person, it stands to reason that you should skill yourself to then program that same digital experience. And
Mhm.
it does require ongoing monitoring, support, and operations. These are not set it and forget it systems.
Mhm.
These systems require workers. These workers are some of them are highly skilled developers. Some of them are process people who can
Mhm.
document processes and produce this coded logic within these low code, no code interfaces that the technology now affords. That's where we're upskilling talent at iXeed. Is we're shifting that talent to be able to program these digital experiences, because that's the future. It
Mhm.
is about to transform the way people work, just the way that ATMs transformed banks and the way that customers withdrew money from bank accounts.
That sounds really exciting to me. And one of the bigger questions that I would like to ask is, what's been your experience in terms of onboarding people or talents who obviously have to retool to learn how to work with the new systems and to prepare them to interact with the outside world? Has it been for lack of a better term, has it been a difficult experience, or has it been more of a hand in glove
Mm.
experience?
Well, we've built a very special culture at iXeed, and we have been so fortunate with the people that we've hired. We have some phenomenal talent working at our team, and I think that it's for that reason that we have been so successful in our journey thus far. We've essentially, our approach has been to hire experts in their area of expertise,
Mm.
which you would think that's everyone's approach, but ultimately getting the basics right, but creating a culture where everybody has the opportunity to add value and contribute towards some innovation within the company. And we've created a safe space for people to learn, because to do innovation, you have to be willing to try things, and sometimes those things are going to fail. And so you have to create a safe space to enable failure,
Mm.
where people learn from failure quickly and realize that that's actually the process for becoming successful and innovative.
Mm.
And creating that kind of a culture is what I think has attracted some really phenomenal talent
Mm.
to our company to work on these initiatives. This is a new frontier. Operationalizing AI, I can tell you, no one does that well. And we are at the forefront at iXeed of reskilling people to build out an AI operations business process improvement organization. And being on the new frontier of something comes with its own fair share of challenges. And so you learn a lot. And that learning is uncomfortable. So we've gotten comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that people that work at iXeed really appreciate that kind of a culture. And we've been really lucky to have the talent that we do.
I imagine that to some extent, some of the questions that you've had to ask yourselves, how good or how perfect should we make our model? Because sometimes if the AI person that you're interacting with is flawless in terms of grammar, for example, or is flawless in terms of managing their emotions, so they never get angry, they never react in a negative way. um, Sometimes having those minute flaws or reintroducing the humanity in them
Mhm.
might make them more accessible or approachable. Has that been part of the challenge to create an interactive service person with some built-in flaws, as it were?
Yeah, we're not trying to replace people. So we're not trying to replicate, what makes humanity beautiful, which is our imperfections,
Yeah.
right? I get where you're saying there. No, we're not trying to do that. In fact, we're trying to make sure that there's a lot of transparency when an individual is interacting with an AI system. The intent is actually to make it easier for
Mm.
individuals to actually get outcomes by their interactions with AI.
Mm.
We tell our clients the goal should be to build digital AI experiences that your customers actually want. If you build something that customers don't want, then that's a flawed design.
Mm.
And it's also important about making sure that it's easy when there is an emotional individual who does require more humanity, right?
Mm.
Emotion is not handled best by an AI solution. I mean, it's just technology.
Mm.
So it's about detecting that and then getting that to the human support that's required in order to extend that, that more human connection to the approach.
Mm.
I talk about AI and I've spent a lot of time in contact centers and working with a lot of large Fortune 500 brands in their contact center strategies. And what I would tell you is that those operations are large. I mean, for a large organization, a contact center can have 8,000 employees. That's
Oh.
just the sheer volume. And they would be handling about 50 calls a day.
Mm.
Typical contact center. So just, do the math on the scale of that.
Mm.
And put yourself in a large organization shoes. What do? You have to control that volume of activity, right? And so there's a lot of controls and processes that are ultimately put in place. And some of the tendency, I think, because of the large volume of interactions, is actually to robotize the way that people within these large operations make decisions. So you get into these things where there's decision trees. People aren't allowed to make decisions. There's a decision tree where you input variables and it tells you what to say back to the customer. There's this desire to mechanize the large scale of this operations because they want control.
Mm.
And that's, I think for large organization, that's a fair expectation. I don't fault the organization for wanting control of its activities, but that can make it come across as if the people that you're talking to in the contact center aren't human, right? Because they'll say
Mm.
things like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to do, my system's not allowing me to do this,"
Mm.
or they're not empathizing with what the individual on the other end of the line really needs.
Mm.
And I think and that becomes a frustrating situation in a human interaction, because when I talk to you, Dino, I expect to have a human connection. I
Right.
expect you to respond to me as a human.
Mm.
And in some way, it is human to empathize, right? I mean, we
True.
should empathize with each
Yes.
other. That is what I think it is to be human. And
Mm.
when we see that that's missing from an interaction because it's been enforced by policy or a system, it starts to create tension.
Mm.
But what's interesting is that that almost feels more hurtful because it is a human to human interaction. Whereas I, as a person, if I heard a robot tell me, no, I am not going to give you a refund on this fee.
Yeah.
And I get that, and you're a robot, and I just know that that's the decision tree in the computer that made that
Mm.
decision. I almost, as a person, feel more content with that than if I
Mm.
were to have pled my case to you personally, Dino, and then
Mm.
you personally to say you wouldn't waive my fee. I would be a little bit more offended. And so I think that there's a balance. And I think that's the challenge that we're embarking on, and the balance that we're trying to strike, to go back
Mm.
to your original question,
Mm.
is where is it better for AI to support the interaction because it's transactional and it requires efficiency, speed, and accuracy,
Mm.
balancing that with where do you need human connection because human connection is what is required.
Mm.
And that is the exciting frontier that we're embarking on. And I think getting that balance right will be the differentiator of the Fortune 500 companies of the future. Those that do it well will be the ones that grow and will be relevant in the decades to come.
You know, I agree with what you're saying there because indeed, if we get a reaction from a bot that says, no, we can't do that, then I know that there is no there's no use to
Mm,
asking, oh, I'd like to talk to your supervisor. I mean, that's not going to happen. So uh, I accept it and move on.
mm,
And
correct.
yet, on the other hand, I imagine what you're saying and the incredible convenience that it creates for me as a customer. Like, for example, I know that so many people out there do have to work on visa applications, for
Mm,
example,
yes.
and those are time sensitive. And if you don't type fast enough, it'll reset and you start from scratch.
Mm,
Um, would it be better? I mean, I'm addressing our audience here, guys. Would it be better if, for example, you're applying for a visa renewal and you were interviewed by a bot that sounded human, but isn't human. But then instead of being limited by how fast you can type, you'd only be limited by how fast you can react. Whether yes, no, um, and then you can say the name of where you graduated from, and then it types that for you. Man, I'd love to have AI do that for me, so that the application would be half as long and way more efficient.
mm,
Um, on the other hand, Arthur, I also know that sometimes there are people who suffer from, for example, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, who are actually more comfortable talking to AI than they are to talking to real psychologists,
mm,
because they know that the machine or the thing that they're talking to isn't judgmental.
yes.
It's
Yes.
willing to listen, hear them all out without any reaction whatsoever. And so here's a question I'd like to ask, because I'm really really curious. In the process of designing the AI model that you work with, have you had to deal with some of the struggles that other organizations deal with, like for example, the challenge of inclusivity?
Mm,
Because then we say, how do we deal with people who want to be addressed in a certain way, or if they want to hear a particular type of voice, is there like a menu that lets me, for example, say, oh, okay, I'd like to talk to somebody who has a neutral accent. I click on that option. I'd want it to be a male. I'd click on that option. Or is this like an androgynous entity that works with anybody who uses it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can create personalized experiences with AI like not before. And that personalization, I think, will help to make customer experience a differentiator in the age of AI. And certainly even today, you can Alexa's programmable in multiple different voice styles,
True.
right? So there's a standard program and there's a different voice style. So you can always, I think, over time, probably play around with those types of personalization aspects and integrate that within customers. Right now, that I think that's probably a later stage evolution of
Okay.
where we go.
Mm.
There's a major rush, I think, to digitize and simplify transactions within organizations, and I think
Mm.
that's where we're spending a lot of our core focus, is using technology today to actually take the complexity of large business and to unfold that for a customer in a very simple way, in a way that a customer appreciates. And then once we do that, then there's probably the next evolution of that is, how do you personalize those experiences and create that level of customization. But for the time being, the challenges are really bigger than that. It's about taking the complex, simplifying it, and then helping to create convenience for customers and create a better environment for customers to interact with their brands that they choose to do business with, in a way that feels like the brand understands the customer. That's ultimately what we're focused on building and trying to drive.
The wonderful thing about what you're proposing is how scalable it can be. In other words, you don't have to be limited by, say, having just 5,000 people taking calls, but now you have a program that can handle literally the world.
Mm.
And it all depends on bandwidth now at this point, because it can take any call anywhere, anytime. Doesn't never has to go on vacation leave or
Mm.
sick leave. So another thing
And
that.
you say, and Dino, you mentioned call, but I'd actually say that I think that the shift is moving away from voice as well.
Hmm.
So now the convenience that people want is to be able to message from the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And messaging enables much more convenience to the customer, because if you think
Hmm.
about how messaging works, I say it's asynchronous. So what that means is I
Yeah.
can message you right now because it's convenient for me. But then let's say I go into a meeting and I'm distracted for the next 30 minutes. You may
Mm-mm.
have responded in that time that I've been away.
Mm-mm.
But because it's understood to be an asynchronous channel, there's no expectation from you that I'm just waiting for your response. So,
Yeah.
so it's convenient, because then when I have the opportunity, I can actually respond back to you. And then the nice thing about messaging is it provides history of the communication that's happened. Um, I'm sure you've had a experience where somebody told you something over the phone
Mm.
that didn't come out to be true, didn't happen the way it was intended to happen, and then you have to call again, and then it's almost as if you have to restate your story. Now you've turned it in a little bit of a telenovela that you have to unfold for the next time you're talking to your contact center person to try to resolve your customer pain point.
Mm.
And that's because voice doesn't give that history. That history doesn't present itself. And so messaging better enables context and the history of conversations and convenience for customers. And so I think we're going to see a shift from voice into digital channels. But I don't think that that shift is going to be without some reprogramming of customer behaviors and habits of customers. I think customers will have to be shown that this is a much more convenient channel by the brands that they interact with. And once shown, the research says that yes, in fact, customers do love the channel and adopt it a lot more because of the convenience and improved efficiency of interacting with the brand through such means. And so that's part of the work that we do for clients is to help shift their customers from these voice transactions into these digital channels where they're actually better able to be adapted to AI. Always we like to go to the use case examples of AI where, they may be talking on the phone with you, and that is a use case potentially at some point in time. However, voice comes with lots of problems. Detecting voice, you have to get through accent. You have to understand colloquialisms of different areas. You have to deal with cell signals. So the quality of the voice line in being able to even understand a customer. So there's more variability, I think, in having voice interactions, whereas digital interactions are very clear. I mean, the Philippines, I believe, is the leader in messaging and social media. And I think that probably started because we all know that in the early days, getting a clear cell signal to make a voice call was problematic, but you always knew your message got through, right? And I think it's the same approach when you're talking about the effectiveness of AI interactions. It's much more better in a text-based world than a voice world, but can be done in both.
I'm glad that you called me out on that one because I will confess that my initial reaction was more as a baby boomer. You know how we older people we do love our voice calls.
Well, I think the world still does. I mean, 80% of the traffic in the world is on voice today. I'll tell you. So this is it's not a generational thing, right? It's a behavioral thing. We even say it. We say, oh, I'm going to call such and such company. We always just jump to voice. But actually, brands need to start to educate customers that there's actually a much more convenient channel at their disposal. And that's in the form of messaging for these benefits. And that's not the fault of the customer. That's the fault of the brand not establishing this much more convenient channel, which is a digital channel for customers. The only time where messaging doesn't work, so I'll use an example. So let's just say, so in the US, you have to, for certain fights, you have to buy a fight. You have to call your cable company and you have to buy the boxing fight, right? And so it's pay-per-view. And sometimes that doesn't work, right? So you buy the fight and something doesn't happen with the cable box and the fight's going on and your signal's not coming through. So I always use this as the example of, well, you're certainly as a customer not going to be sitting on your phone messaging the cable company about this issue. Because if you are an avid fight watcher, it could be over in the first minute, right? So every second that you're losing is very precious. So in that scenario, voice is the only option because it's the channel of immediacy, urgency, right? Emergency situations will always be done via voice. But non-urgent transactional situations are actually much more convenient and better handled in digital channels. And it's on the brands to educate their customer base on these solutions and making them available to their customers. That's what we help our clients to do.
And I'm glad that you clarified that for me because so I just had an epiphany the moment that you were explaining that messaging is so ubiquitous now. I see everybody doing it, from Grab riders delivering food or packages, uh,
Yes,
to grandmas and uncles who message if they're looking for a particular shop or a particular place. It is way more convenient to simply message because it gets through, and you have a digital footprint that you can look
correct,
back on to prove that, hey, I did send you this message.
correct.
We did have this conversation.
Mm.
So what does the future look like, Arthur, for your clients, for your people?
I think really exciting. I think that the frontier is a bold and an exciting new adventure, and I think it's going to be very transformative and in a positive way.
Mm.
In a positive way for everyone. It's exciting for our experts who do the work for our clients. It's exciting for us as we grow our business and building the capability to support the AI future. And then ultimately for our clients, because what they really want is they want a better way to take care of their customers. And the use of technology will spur that level of innovation that will transform customer experience for the better. And I think that ultimately is positive for everyone.
I couldn't agree more. It seems like the future is for those who know how to leverage AI and help customers enjoy the interaction so much better. Um, I've really enjoyed our discussion, and I've learned a lot from you,
Thank
especially
you.
in the area of not being too fixated on, say, what we've seen in media, like the Obama avatar talking. So I not for us not to think yet of AI as a service provider in that format, but of AI as a messaging service that allows transactions to be fast, to
Yeah.
be secure, verifiable, and at the same time easier to manage. I'm with you on this, and I do wish you the best for your organization, for your team. Um, are there any upcoming events that you'd like to share with the audience? Like, are you giving a keynote speech sometime soon? Because I imagine you're probably busy doing that.
I think that to keep up with our events, there's nothing immediate on the calendar, but I do speak regularly at various different conferences, and if anyone's interested in following me or attending those events, they can follow me on LinkedIn. The name is Arthur Nowak, Nowak. And you can also follow iXeed at iCXeed .com. And we're on all social channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn by that same name.
Awesome. So, um, Arthur, maybe as a side question, I'll just ask.
Mm.
Um, One of the concerns that a lot of people now have is with how to make sure that their systems remain secure and protected. I'm sure you have a team that's also making sure that cybersecurity is in place, so that none of the services have to stop and that all of the interactions remain constant.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone is arming themselves with the latest in info security capabilities and monitoring. We Our solution is that we build for clients is with one of the top cloud infrastructure providers globally,
Mm.
and they out of that cloud infrastructure help to provide the info security necessary in order to help secure this type of transactions. And then we don't actually deal with customer data.
Mm.
So, our clients maintain ownership of their customers' data. We do not.
Mm.
And so certainly they all have their safeguards and protections around keeping their customer data safe and secure within their organization. We just help to make sure that the security of our solutions meets their security standards and requirements, and we do to not only meet them but exceed them, those expectations.
Wow. So, Arthur, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. It's certainly a pleasure to meet somebody who has succeeded so fast and so far. When I heard about your life story from Dinah, I said, "Oh, I have to meet Arthur. I really have to meet Arthur because what you've been through and what you have achieved in such a short amount of time is nothing short of phenomenal." So, once more, our thanks for joining us on a show, and more success to your efforts to upgrade the customer experience through AI. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you learned and enjoyed what you heard this afternoon, please do leave comments in the comment section. Our guests always like to hear from our viewers. And do remember to like, click, share, and subscribe. And our next guest, who is Eric Riego de Dios, coming from Africa. He's going to be talking from a safari, lessons that he learned from it. So that'll be episode 2, season 15. And as ever, let's all remember that learning is a never ending journey with limitless vistas. Good day.